and eat your dinner.
I'm just gonna. There we go. Jason came to the rescue. Yahoo!
Yeah.
Okay, everybody, I'm gonna go eat my dinner. You're not gonna see me chomping.
We're gonna do reality TV here.
Oh shoot! I was gonna mute myself so I could eat some too, but I'll wait. We'll take turns.
No, mine's all hot and ready to eat, man. Anyway.
That's what we should do. We'll all bring dinner, and then we'll all just sit here and eat together. That would be cool. I think that would be a lot of fun.
No, I know you're a healthy eater. You're gonna make the rest of us look bad, man. Or
no, man.
You're gonna make me look bad.
No, breaking bread's not about who eats what. It's just about eating together. It's all good.
Unless you deep fry that bread.
That's funny. I've seen a lot of things deep fried. You can do anything.
I have. I think my deep fried days are behind me, but I've definitely been to a couple of. I used to work for a theater company. At the end of the year, they'd have a shop party, so they'd get. And they had 2 deep fryers. One was the responsible deep fryer. They deep fry turkey. They deep fry some other things. The other one was the anything goes. You bring it. They got some Bisquick. You wrap that thing in Bisquick. They'll throw it in.
That's funny.
Oh yeah, it was real good going down. a lot of. The next day, nobody knew which was worse: the hangover from the booze or the hangover from the food. There
you go. That's food hangovers. I've never actually thought about that, but you're absolutely right. That next day, it's just you're like, oh, what did I eat? Why did I eat?
I was not a responsible individual.
It's fun. What's going on, man? You've been working hard. I haven't seen you in a while.
Yeah, well, I've got the new job, which is great, but it makes the Monday hangouts are a bit of a no-go for me at the moment. So
yeah, that's all good. That's all good. I'm glad.
But no, it's really good. Yeah, it's it's working out, and I am. It's with a company that has a mobile app, but that's a mobile interface for a database structure that's handled in the web, and so I am digging further into SQL than I have needed to in the past, which has been kind of great.
Yeah. Yeah, well, there's lots of demand for that kind of stuff. Needing to know SQL, and it was just about any job. So, their mobile part is it native mobile, or is it like web mobile, or what's it?
It's native. It's just iOS, but it's built on Xamarin. So their engineers work in C#, which is something I'm also looking to teach myself, just to keep up with the Joneses.
Yeah,
but it seems like it's a good. Broad use. It seems not as simple as something like Lua, but it seems like it has wide application use, like Lua can.
Yeah, we talked about this kind of briefly before, but I'm glad to see C# take off on its own. Just be its kind of own language. Be separate from. Even though I know Xamarin does, it's still kind of like Microsoft focused, right? It's still kind of building business applications and stuff like that, but it's kind of stands on its own. It's its own thing.
Yeah. So no, but it's been going good. But it's definitely new job. You don't want to be like, hey, it's every Monday. I'm going to take off in the afternoon and.
Hey, where's that new guy?
Yeah.
You have to expand your programming chops, which is good.
Yeah, no.
It's a good language. It's always better to get your feet back into a realer language like C# or C++ or something like that. A little more.
You know what though? I'm working. Just because it's shorthand to me, and because it's comfortable with me, and they're great. They're the main sort of engineer there is working with me and says, we can plug things in here and say I can work this out so you can code in Lua and then you can plug it into our existing workflow. So which is great. He's being really just because he sort of before I got hired looked at my website and says, oh, I don't know Lua, but I see that you're into it, so we can try and work within that. So that's great, thanks. But I'm actually using Corona right now. I'm coming up with a big part of my job is that they're working on a new product that is in a competing market space. So a big part of their eventual business is going to be taking customers who are using another product and onboarding them onto ours. And so that's a big part of my job is coming up with an import process for that. And thus far I've been working with just, just because it was fastest for me, just to fire up Corona and start working with something, come up with a GUI, make a desktop app, that'll take a CSV file and generate the appropriate SQL queries in the appropriate order, and because the table structure is complicated and there's dependencies and other things, so it's I'm managing that in Lua and Corona. And they actually just last week, Perry was really great. I think he was working on it before I mentioned it, but I went on the forum and said, hey, when are we going to have drag and drop, file opening in desktop apps? So, I've got a CSV file. I just want to drag it onto my icon and have it imported, like a launch argument. He goes, well, we were actually, and like 3 days later, there it was in there, and it works great.
Hey,
Really
speaking of
fantastic.
3 days later, what's up with that, man? I'm talking to you, Michael.
What?
Michael's like, what are you talking about?
Sorry.
I'm sorry, Jason. I had to. You gave me the perfect entry. You made me a liar, man. Yesterday, literally, not even 3 days later. Yesterday, I made a big deal about desktop development, and I'm like, don't forget, guys, vertical, horizontal, width, height. They're opposite of what you think. And then you guys go and release them.
Yeah, so that was actually different on OS X and Windows. We finally settled on how we wanted to handle that.
Oh wait, I haven't seen this. Are Y coordinates bottom to top now?
In your build settings, your default view width and height are no longer based on your config.lua config or setup. It's now just like raw pixels, I think, or not raw pixels, but.
I'll figure it all out and explain it next week. But dang it.
I think the way to explain it is that desktop apps have no notion of orientation. It just doesn't really make sense for them.
Right.
So you always just think in terms of portrait.
Yeah. Because I had a great explanation on the show. I talked about how mobile devices were all sort of like, they started in the portrait concept, and then you had landscape apps, and I said, but then you go to the desktop, and it's always going to be landscape, except for those, and I think I said those weirdos who turn their monitors up sideways.
Like me.
I've done it too. I have done it too, but and then, the thing is, the real terrible thing here is I think that release came out before I made that announcement on the show. I just hadn't updated yet.
Oh, okay.
So it's totally
Not a big deal. It's just 2 little config changes.
yeah, no big deal.
That is the joy of living in the world that we live in, where things change minute by minute. And what you said just a moment ago is no longer true, or it drives me insane. I mean, even talking to my kids, I'm like, well, in the world where.
Well, think of it this way if it makes you feel better. You were right. We were wrong. Like, we had it wrong. We had it different on OS X as it was on Windows. Like, those were flipped. So you build something on OS X and it's portrait like this, and then you build it on Windows and it's like this. So it's.
But because OS 10 led the way and you've already got apps out, it kind of made sense to let Windows follow the lead. Right?
Oh, is this the new? Are we talking about the window table within build settings?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep, that's the one. So
And because I didn't really deep dive into desktop apps until in the last 2 weeks, it was already there when I really started going, oh, I should school myself on this. So
yeah, I'm excited, especially now with joystick. I plugged mine in today and I just ran my little demo and pushed some buttons just to make sure you weren't lying to me.
Yeah, it works.
I've been jonesing for a joystick input for so long.
Yeah, I'm really happy to see that going.
Michael, cookies are coming tomorrow, by the way.
See, this is how you get things done.
In my forum post,
3 days later.
In my forum post, when I said, hey, what's going on with this? I said, if we can make this happen, there's a box of cookies in it. And well, if you're going to post something like that in a public forum, you better make good on it. So.
No, I think it's like what you said. I think Perry was already working on it.
Yeah, I have no doubt, but I'm happy to do it.
Well, thank you. It's much appreciated.
Done, and giving kudos to Jason. Did you see yesterday's show yet, Jason?
I haven't yet. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. Well, then I'll give you a preview of the thing that you made possible.
Spoiler alert.
I made something possible? That's
Yeah.
That's unlikely.
your Twitto, yeah, that's right, I can't speak. I've had half a beer and some food here. I'm twittoing. Your Twitter app with that beautiful fly-in window that you use to demonstrate the output of various Twitter results.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I've been wanting to co-opt that for the longest time.
Oh, you should have told me. I would have. Oh, was the code? I think it was in the main dot though. Yeah, so you would have been able to see it.
I totally stole your code and then modified it.
Happy to do it.
One of the things that I don't like about desktop development is, you can run it in the simulator, but sometimes you really got to run it on the desktop mode to get the certain things, right? It's just because you got to do it. But as soon as you do that, it's kind of like a pain to get the console output. So I used your tool, I modified it, and I used some of my SSK stuff and mashed them all together. And I don't know can you see this?
Yep.
Now, Control L flies in a console window.
Oh, sweet.
Live on the desktop, and it works for Android, and it works for iOS. And it captures all normal output and unhandled exceptions. So basically anything that could kill your app and any comments you print out will all get captured. And so I'm thinking about packaging the whole thing up as like a little module or something. But
yeah, definitely.
Kudos to you. I mean, this is not very exciting output. Let's see if we can get something a little more exciting.
Well, and if Rob joins up, I can give him some kudos. I mean, that is basically, I threw a visual element on it, but I borrowed from his print_r function, which is on a blog post from, I don't know, probably 6 months ago at this point.
Yeah, I know. I recognize the print_r underline or base. The code there was very similar to print_r.
Yeah, I basically took that, but instead of printing to the console, I said, well, let's for each line that would be print, let's just make a new display, new text.
I'm gonna hide myself and finish my soup now. Anyway,
nice.
I've been dying to have a console, and it's just like I just didn't want to do that last step, was to get the thing looking good. And you came in with your beautiful fly-in widget usage. I'm stealing that right now.
Well, thank you for making use of it. Makes me real happy.
So did you just say, Ed, that you're having soup? And prior to that, did you say you had a beer? So you're having beer and soup? Appropriate response. Beer and soup.
It just happened to be what I grabbed. That's what I could make in like the 5 minutes before the show.
Maybe it's beer soup. Is that what we're?
No, it's clam chowder, toast, and beer.
Clam chowder, beer, and toast.
And
wow.
It's
I'm on board with 2 of those things.
There you go.
Apocalypse, 10-barrel apocalypse for the show, of course.
10-barrel apocalypse. I don't even know what that is. Is that a
microbrew here in Oregon?
Microbrew. Okay.
Yep.
A little soup is probably good. It's probably starting to get chilly up there, hey?
It is, yeah. I'm hoping it'll hold off a little bit. I just totally nobody cares. I reseeded my lawn. I'm just waiting for it to germinate. Nobody cares.
In October, it's brave. That's a bold move.
Yeah, as long as it doesn't freeze in the next 2.5 weeks, I'm good.
Nope. The famous last words.
So let me inject a question into the group's psyche here while I finish off the last bit of my soup for you guys to think about. Question is when do you think the iPad Pro is going to really come out? Do you think it's going to be the beginning of the month, middle of the month? And question 2, do you think as soon as they put it out, they're going to be like, here's some new changes to our policies in iOS 9 point whatever?
So well, let's look at the calendar.
2 thoughts there.
Okay.
My first thought is who cares. The second thought is the Corona shell, corona.shell.exe actually outputs to standard out, so you could run your desktop apps through that and get the console output that way. Regarding what you were talking about before.
Oh, I wasn't belittling the output of the thing. I was just, really, what I should have said was, I'm just lazy. So, like, I just want a visual element that I don't have to struggle over. And then showing how lazy I am, I spent several hours thinking about this. Well, not several hours, but I've been thinking about it for a while, and then I spent like half an hour developing it. So.
Oh, I thought you were just with regards to getting the console output for desktop apps. It's all set to standard out, so you can get things there.
No, I know you can totally. I mentioned it on the show. I'll say it again. The disclaimer here is that yes, you can redirect the output from for Windows and for OS 10. It's just that I think on OS 10, it's a little. You got to be a little more knowledgeable. You got to know a little bit of Unixy, get the command line and that kind of stuff. And Windows, even there, you got to be a little bit knowledgeable. And then I'm kind of like lazy. I like to just drop something in. So I could set myself up. I mean, like, for example, Logcat. I'm so lazy, I won't even type Logcat. I've just got a shortcut on my desktop. So, totally too lazy.
Just wanted to make sure that was known.
Yeah, I should have made the lazy disclaimer because you're on the show and I don't want to in any way seem like I'm maligning the tremendous effort that goes into making sure that people can still debug their apps. Because I said it on the first show, absolutely, it's totally possible. It's just I'm a lazy guy.
Seriously though, about the iPad Pro, the only thoughts I have on it is related to orientation events, but I don't have any thoughts
I'm
there.
excited about it. Okay, I'm going to finish my toast and I'll tell you all.
If you look at the I'm looking at the calendar. So we've got if you look at November, Thanksgiving falls on the 26th, which is the Thursday. So that I don't think they would release it before or directly after those dates. I could be wrong. So that just sort of cuts out the fourth week of the month. The 30th falls on a Monday, so that's still within the November time frame. But that would be, like a full week there after. That would be the week after Thanksgiving. And then there's 3 weeks before Thanksgiving, and November 1st is on a Sunday. So really there's only like a 3-week row there where they could possibly let this thing launch. They usually like to do things at the end of the week. So the 7th, the 14th, or the 21st could be potential release dates. But the 21st is the week before Thanksgiving. So it just seems weird that they would do that. So I'm thinking the 7th or the 14th. That's the way my brain works. Maybe the 14th, because that's the middle of the month, right? That's
Well, I asked the right question from the right person because you know what? I totally didn't know any of that.
Well, that's what I'm just looking at. I'm just looking at it from their standpoint. When are they going to get the most bang for the buck? And then if everybody's focused on Thanksgiving, then they're not really grabbing it. And they also people like to do the Black Friday sale thing. So I mean, I guess they could maybe launch it on the 28th, after, or the 27th, which is directly after Thanksgiving. But it just seems weird that they would do that. So
I'm going to say the 7th because they want to catch people way before they got to be thinking about, I got to go catch that plane or make that plane reservation. Is Uncle Bob coming for Thanksgiving? And because they want to catch people before they spend all their money.
It is true, yeah, because you do have the, right after that, if you advance the calendar 1 month, there's really only 3 weeks after Thanksgiving, right, where people are going to be laying down their cash for presents and stuff. So, that's if you don't push it all the way up to the last minute.
They didn't do a beta program, did they?
For iPad Pro?
Yeah. Nobody got it early?
I don't think so, no. I mean, nobody officially.
Do it on the 7th then, because they're going to want to get it into developers' hands as soon as physically possible, so people can be doing their last-minute tweaks and getting stuff out for the holidays.
Yeah. Now, have they had super secret people working on stuff? Maybe. Who knows? I don't know.
That's a possibility. Why am I not
following this really closely? They have not announced a hard date yet.
No,
still?
Not really. They said in November.
That's. Which makes sense at an August event or even a September event, but that's pretty cagey to be. I mean, it makes you want. Maybe I guess there's supply chain issues, maybe, or because you got to figure it's going to be a big seller out of the gate.
When was the announcement? Wasn't the announcement
September, first week of September, second week of September?
No.
So they don't like to commit. I think that's my feeling about Apple is they like to hedge their bets in a big way.
Yeah, but they're pretty absolute about the things that they know for sure, right? I mean, they're like when they When they know, right? They're like, hey, and you can get it you can order it right now, or you can order it on Friday. I mean, they're like really specific about those types of things, but things that they're a little more up in the air about, they kind of leave it till November. So yeah, I think I think we should have a pool. Not that we should bet for cookies or something.
You don't want mine.
No, it's interesting though. I saw a tweet earlier today. I can't remember who it was from, but somebody was saying, I can't remember when the official launch date for Apple TV is, but they said we still can't submit Apple TV apps yet, and we're really close to the launch of the product.
And I'm going to make a correction. I'm looking at the calendar. The 7th and the 14th are Saturdays. The 6th and the 13th are Fridays. So maybe you're even more correct there, Ed, because who wants to release the iPad on Friday the 13th?
That's not going to happen. Oh my gosh.
So
what about the second question? We've kind of narrowed in. We're pretty much all in agreement now. It's going to be the 7th. I think you guys are really, I'm going to pretend you shook your heads yes. Michael's like, yeah, I'm not joining this one, man. I don't care.
Yeah.
Does it make any changes to Corona? Thankfully, no. Okay, good. I'm good to go. That wasn't a question, Mike. Can I call you Mike?
Oh, okay. The iPad Pro, actually, we did have to make changes for that.
You did?
Well, for some of the stuff that it supports, like a lot of the multitasking stuff, it's going to...
Like the side-by-side thing.
That'll be kind of interesting. Interesting thing that's happening, I'm not 100% clear on, but I think it's happening, is the ability to start sharing data between apps, either apps that have been worked out to be like within the same group or something like that. I mean, have any of you guys done any exploration or thinking about that? And I mean you guys on the panel, not you, Michael, and the staff.
Hasn't that been in? Are you talking about the where you can like start something in one app and then push it to another one?
Couple things. One would be pushing data from one app that is running to another app that is or is not running.
Right.
But second, that's secondary. Primary, the first thing I saw a couple months ago.
Yeah.
Was but those are all. Yeah. Those are all sort of things that already exist. Sort of pushing to, social. Sharing apps and stuff. Those
this is not share sheet kind of stuff, but share sheets.
I'm talking about. Yeah, don't make fun of me now. I'm talking about arbitrary data sharing between apps. Anything you want to pass. But what I wanted to say is a few months back, a couple months I think, I was doing a client build and I was putting together these certificates and I noticed a new option on these certificates. When you do your certificates and you say like, oh, it supports in-app purchase and pushes and all those things you got to select out of the choices. And I saw something there for grouping, and I'm making myself sound muffling here by playing with my lips while I talk. Something about grouping apps, and I was like, what's this? Something about sharing data between apps if they're in a group? Oh, that sounds interesting. I should investigate that. And it's been too much, and I haven't investigated it, so I'm hoping somebody else already did for me. Jason. Jason's like, what? I'm going to get my dinner.
Yeah, no,
it's my turn to eat now.
I remember seeing. I'm with you. I think you remember seeing something in the options with, do you want Game Center enabled? Do you want such health kit? Those sorts of things. And I remember seeing something like what you're describing, but I haven't spent any time exploring it. So
I'm wondering if it's like a common sandbox or something for the apps, or I don't know. I don't really know much about that stuff, and it sort of all dwells on the native side. So
yeah,
that's why I use Corona, so I don't have to think about that stuff. Let's be honest, I'm lazy. Did I already say that?
Yeah, I was just, I thought it was all just like you can. Like there's some audio apps where you can start audio. You can record audio in one app, and then you can push it to another app to do the editing and output. Is that what you're talking about? That kind of thing?
Yeah, that exact kind of thing. An arbitrary data file that you would pass from one app to another.
Yeah, I thought that was implemented in iOS 8.
That's a possibility, because that's probably about the right time for when I saw it. Was
yeah. I couldn't remember if it was 7 or 8, but I'm looking at an article here from June of 2014, and it says iOS apes. iOS apes.
Oh, good. Where's your beer? What are you drinking over there, Charles?
That's right. Nothing yet.
Oh,
iOS 8. Well, where'd the stupid title go? Apps can share data features with each other. So here's the. I put it in that. And so yeah, so you have the share sheet stuff that I was looking at, for social media and that sort of thing. That's
I thought you were just
always been there.
With a share sheet for a share sheet.
No, share sheet. It's a share sheet.
Real fast.
But then yeah, you can share data, and it's the apps have always been siloed, right? They've always been in their little space, but it makes a lot of sense to be able to interact between applications, like that one that I was showing isn't just doing share sheet kind of stuff. It's called WordSwag, and so you do some of your editing in one app, and then you push it to other apps to do other things. So
yeah, I mean, imagine how cool that is. I can think of all kinds of really cool ways to use common data between apps.
Yeah. Well, and it's one of the criticisms of iOS is that everything is siloed into one app, right? And I think they're trying to make inroads into making it more possible to have a workflow, but at the same time still have that data security, that that silo, so that if one rogue app goes bad, then they don't have to worry about it.
Or one rogue app runs a VPN and tries to steal your password.
Well, I think they had that not a sort of a security breach, very rare for them, right? Where a whole bunch of people were releasing apps that were generated using
some foolish people downloaded
a fake version of Xcode.
Yeah,
right.
They're totally to blame for their own troubles.
Right, but did you see the recent thing that said there's 250 iOS apps that had an ad SDK in them that collects personal data?
Well, that's no good.
Yeah, I'll put it in the chat. So yeah, basically that. It was an ad network, and you could collect personal data from and it basically breaks Apple's terms of service, right? So they pulled it, and even the official McDonald's app for China was using this SDK. So kind of a big deal. Busted.
Totally.
But it also highlights a little something that I think they need to fix, right? And we've all complained about it before, is their review process, because somehow they have a stringent review process that seems to tweak everybody's knobs, but somehow 250 apps made it through the firewall, So
yeah, your app's not going to get through, but this guy over here stealing data, he's good, man.
He's good to go. Good to go.
We're going to put you on the front page too while we're at it. So.
Speaking of apps getting released, I should mention an app that I was the developer on. I didn't design it. I certainly didn't do the graphics, which were beautiful for it. But an education app for kids came out for iOS today. It's been out for a few days for Android. I'll put a link. It's called Be Amazed. So it's just it's about bees. So it's like eco education is what it's called. It's like a series of mazes and like a card matching, memory matching.
Where's the link, man?
Game. It's coming right now.
Was it coming through your modem? Because it's
I can't type and talk at the same time.
Type.
Sending it to you one letter at a time.
Yeah, I don't hear any want in the background there, so you got no excuse for that.
no dot matrix.
But yeah, it's I think it turned out pretty well. I'm pretty pleased with it. So we'll see. My kids loved it, which was great. It was like my kids are only 2, so still really young, and we don't give them too much like iPad time. But they love this one. They say B, which is very gratifying. I mean, to have to be making something that your kids really enjoy looking at and playing with.
You have the MT8 link?
What's that?
You have the MT8 link? I call it that.
Oh,
I got this. Because when I paste that link in my browser, it just goes to the iTunes thing. Do you want to download iTunes? No, I just want to look at the link.
Oh, gotcha. Here, I can get the full
okay,
link.
I got the other one, geotots.com, and it's on here.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, we're good. Figured it out. Razzle dazzle, baby.
Nailed
Yeah,
it.
this is actually sort of fun. It sort of feeds on some of the stuff that you were touching on a couple of weeks ago with an in-game editor. If you look at some of the screenshots there, you can see that there's a couple of the mazes where it's a series of honeycomb cells that fill up the screen, and the pathway is built through those. And I didn't want to have to go through those and in code plot out, because each cell was a separate display object, and I ended up building a little GUI for myself just in the simulator, go, let's change this to this style, change this to that, and not unlike the one that you demoed for your is it they must be fed, or they like to be fed, or
Monsters need coins.
Monsters need coins.
Monsters need coins.
Right.
Not unlike.
Derivative of they must be fed.
I think simpler than what you were looking at with that, but the same idea.
That's what I said on the show. Is the one that I'm showing for the Corona Geek was like all super fancy, but the ones that I make for myself are more like just some dragging thing and then like hit a special key and it prints out where it is on the screen so I can grab it and put it into my code or something.
Yeah. But yeah, it's
You got a little mode 7 thing going on here. It looks like it says show the. Okay, I'm looking at the geotots.com.
Mm-hmm.
Below the video, image to the right, it says show the attendant bee where to feed the queen bee. And if I'm not
yeah.
You're doing a little like tilty.
A little bit. Whoa. Is that? Oh, sorry. I'm hearing the music from the video on that site. So one of the mazes has like a little bit. You're right. Sort of a mode 7, like a tilted plane. That the stuff is going on. I'm not really doing anything so much with code in terms of actually, it's all just a series of.
Is that a snapshot that you then modified, or tweaked it?
For the screenshot, you mean, or?
No, I mean in the screenshot here, it's kind of hard to tell because it's small. I'm zooming in. I haven't seen a live version, so I'm not sure what's going on.
Oh, here, you know what? Let me fire it up in the simulator, and and I'll share my screen. Give me a second here.
But it looks like what you did was you put it in a snapshot, and then you modified the perspective to give it sort of like that mode 7 feel.
Yeah. Oh well, the graphics were given to me pre-rendered like that, and so I worked within that, and then each of the little here. Give me a second here, you guys. I feel like what coffee talk amongst yourselves.
We're all having trouble talking today, and I'm the only one having to be over here. So I'm telling you, but it looks good.
Yeah, no, I was pretty darn pleased with it, all told.
These are clients of yours. This is just to reiterate here. These are some clients.
Yeah, and this was my first experience with. I was just a hired gun on it. But it was Kickstarter.
That's what I was thinking. You're just a hired gun.
But it was a Kickstarter project, so it was Kickstarter funded, and so yeah, so hopefully that'll help. Hopefully that means she's got a bunch of people who will leave reviews, and you have a built-in.
It would seem so. That would seem to.
So let me see here. Let me.
I gotta go investigate the Kickstarter page for this, which is probably linked off here somewhere.
Sorry, it's like I had a drink the night that I moved it from my works in progress folder to my completed projects folder, but now it means I have to go dig it out.
Don't show us something secret.
No. Let's see here. So we'll open it up.
Okay, no pressure. Just find it right now.
Screen share. Okay, so are you guys seeing that now?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So this is, let's see here. This is the first maze. So you can see you sort of drag along, and he follows you at a respectable distance. That fills in all the things.
Disrespectful bees.
But here, let me go back to the main menu. You have to wait through this the first time. Sorry.
Well, yeah. The trouble with showing anything like this on the Google Hangouts is that it always says, okay, frame rate half.
Oh, right,
Yeah,
sure.
yeah. So this is the maze that you were talking about here.
Oh,
So we've got that. So yeah, I put a little bit. The bee that gets moved around gets a little
Oh, I
bigger.
think I see what you did here. So you got this artwork a certain way, and what you did is what you were talking about earlier, where you're like, okay, I need to figure out the position of that. So let me do a little tool thing and help me out. And you probably had to figure out the position of each of those cells.
Less so in this one. In this maze, what I did, what I was talking about earlier was these other ones where it's like like that first maze that you saw briefly before. That was a full, every cell is a different object and they're all touchable. This one, I actually worked ahead by, only. I came up with a little script that actually draw these little green bits that highlight here are actually display new polygons that I generated a little script that sort of came up with them by tracing new images. So what I did is I leaned heavily on Texture Packer for this one because I would do each cell of this, each touchable cell of this, I would export it as a new full screen image. And what's great about Texture Packer is you can tell it that to compress that. So if you've got it helps so much for positioning to export every one of these dozens and dozens of images as full, in this case 1024 by 768 image, which would never fit in a single sprite sheet. But it will strip out all of the transparent areas, so it compresses it, makes it super small, and then, but it still remembers where it would be positioned in that full 1024 by 768 layout. And so you can, put dozens of images, tell them to center them all at 0, 0, for example, and you'll know that, and you just know that they're going to look right. So I am such a fan of that program. But
is this sort of a 2.5D sort of thing going on here? What do you
well, the B, I put a runtime an enter frame listener on the B. So depending on his position, if he's closer to the bottom of the screen, he gets a little bigger, and as he's closer to the top, he gets a little smaller. So it's faking it, but so here we have the B's in there, and so it's subtle education. I think it's not textbooky. It's aimed at young kids.
I've never seen that game where you poop larva in the hole.
But this one here.
Good job, Charles. You're really selling people on the game now, man. You went from awesome salesperson to not so awesome salesperson.
No. Are you kidding? I just increased the curiosity factor by 10, man. They're like.
I'm gonna make one little change here. Okay, I'm gonna do something here. I'm gonna screen share. I hope my client doesn't mind. I don't think she'll mind. Let me screen share my entire window, my entire screen here for a moment. And so I've got one of my mazes. We've got maze 1. And what I did is, so you can see it here. This is, it in play mode. And the maze itself is a display object that gets created. And in my, let's see here. Here we go. So instead of
secret sauce
maze.play,
what is this editor? Oh, Atom.
Atom.
I am a fan of Atom.
Yep, me too. Although, remind me, I have something to share about Atom.
Okie doke. Yeah, it's a little buggy at times. I found the finding actually can be a little weird. Sometimes you're searching for a term that you definitely know is definitely there, and it likes to tell you that it's not. So if we go here to, let's see if this is going to work. So, nope. Sorry.
Come on, man. Haven't you learned anything by watching me do the Hangouts?
Real time.
Real time doing whatever the heck it is you're trying to do. It just ain't going to work, man. this isn't gonna work.
Okay, great. So this
That's
is my
gonna make it
little
you can do that.
this is my little editor here. So you can see I've got this. So I've got those laid out. I want to change the type. So red would be an end zone where I would want. Oh shoot, is this even working right now? No, because I'm making changes. But yes. Oh, here we go. So I can fill those up with that. I can make them this.
And then you save it.
Make them that kind. Yep, and I can move this out of the way.
Don't click save though. I don't want you to mess up whatever you've been doing.
No, it's fine. This is just and then I would hit save, and then it reloads it, and here it is. Or I could hit cancel, and it would go to play mode. Now, that's all funky right now because I'm messing with it, but you can see now I've changed it in real time. So
that's the best kind of editor. Lightweight, one level only that you're editing at a time.
It made it so much easier. Instead of me having to plot out, in a text editor, a couple of levels that are massive. I mean, there's hundreds and hundreds of cells in that when you string them all together. Just to be able to say, okay, here they all are, and let me just go in and change them, in real time it's an hour's worth of work to make this thing nice, and it saves you hours.
What you do is you do this, and then you let your client be like, I'd really like this to change this one feature or whatever, and you go, let me think about that for a bit. You don't tell them you got this editor, and then you just sort of say, hey, I'm gonna give you this thing and let you just go ahead and make the changes yourself, and you just send me back this file, okay?
Well, it's a version 2 feature, I think. We were trying to restrict ourselves from feature creep on this, but I think if it does well enough that she wants to expand on the platform and all, I go, we nicen it up and make it user friendly. Make your own level.
That's right, and then make it a subscription only feature.
Oh, we're getting into the monetization discussion.
Careful, I'll get. This is so dovetailing with something I half jokey but half really want to talk about. We'll catch Kanye West's ire. You heard about this, right? I mentioned this in the Slack channel.
No, dude. I'm like, my Slack channel.
Kanye West went on this mini Twitter rant. It was 3 or 4 tweets about how, app developers, if you're making kids apps, you don't do the in-app purchases. It's awful, and it was like expletive laden and just, which is great because his wife has made millions off of potentially exploitative or addictive personality attracting in-app purchases in her own app, which I just think is so funny. He's not off the mark. I think there needs to be ethics when you're making apps for kids. So he's not wrong.
No, the ethics are all gone, man. It's too late for that. The big companies have already blazed away on no ethics, so we're good. We're clear. All roadblocks are out of the way, man.
Hey, I wanted to say about Adam.
Yes. No, I wasn't forgetting. I was going to say the word Adam in there. He said Adam.
Yeah. So one of the things I've noticed, and you may notice now that I've said this, is that it actually consumes a lot of processor in the background. Like there are times if you go, especially on I don't know about Windows, but if you pull it up on the Mac, and if you have it running, it will chew up like 60 to 80% of your CPU. Sometimes even more, yeah. And
I haven't noticed that.
And I've researched it, and quite a few people have reported the same problem. And one of the things that I was noticing was that my battery in my MacBook Pro, my Air, is getting a little long in the tooth, so it doesn't hold a charge quite as long as it used to. But it seemed like just all of a sudden, like it really, when I would be off the power cable, it would just suck the battery dry, and I was like, what is going on? I gotta get my battery replaced. And the other night I was sitting at this coffee shop, and I had shorts on, and the laptop sitting on my legs, and the bottom of my laptop was so hot, and I was like, what is going on? Because it never gets hot, and the fan doesn't really run unless we're doing Hangouts or something like that. And so I popped open the activity monitor and was looking, and sure enough, Adam was like pegging it out at like 90%. And then if you open up like the preferences pane and stuff like that, sometimes it will open up additional processes that will then themselves run high. So you'll have like 2 or 3 things that are running at like 70% or whatever, which I don't even know how the math works on that. But yeah, it will drain your battery. So apparently it's like I said, a widely reported problem. The developers I think are supposed to be working on a fix, but I haven't seen it yet. So basically my solution was when I'm out and about and on battery, I still open up Sublime and do my work because it doesn't have that issue. But when I'm when I'm tethered to the power on my desk, I open up Atom and use it because it's my new fave.
Yeah, I never got on board with Sublime for whatever reason. It just never resonated with me.
Yeah.
I stuck with Text Wrangler for a really long time just because it was free and it worked and I'd just grown accustomed to it. And I tried to go Sublime because people love it. It just didn't work. And then Chris from Dev Elephant was on the show here and showed Adam, I don't know, a couple of months ago.
Yeah.
And I gave it a try and I haven't gone back. Although I have to say I haven't spent a lot of time with it. But Microsoft has a free Visual Studio product for Mac, Visual Studio Code, which it's very much in the Sublime Text Atom. Visually speaking, it's in that.
Well, it's based on Atom, isn't it?
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I think so.
Interesting. I could look this up now. I heard this is the second time I've heard Visual Studio Code.
Well, I think it's like a preface for when they're eventually going to release, because supposedly they're working on a full-featured Visual Studio, cross-platform.
Interesting. Yeah, it looks a lot like Sublime and/or Atom.
I haven't spent a lot of time with it. I mean, it seems capable. I just, Atom worked for me, so I downloaded it, I looked at it, I said, that's neat, but I'm going to stick with what I use.
Interesting, they're appealing directly to Node.js developers. Right here on their homepage, or the page for this editor, they're saying ASP.NET v5 and Node.js, because Node is, taking over the world and the web space.
I'm going to sound like an idiot, but what is Node?
It's basically it's server-side web development stuff. That's the short version.
Okay.
So yeah. Think of it's the Coronium of web development.
Yeah, I'll care more about it when it supports plugins. Right now, it's kind of bare bones.
So does Atom support multiple pane editing, like split screen?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Well, and they tout it as being quote unquote hackable. So the idea is that it's very easy if you're so inclined to go in and make they don't call them plugins. What do they call them? Packages.
Packages, yeah.
To make a package and make that available, and it's it's like adding a WordPress plugin essentially. You can search the list of available packages for something that you might want to implement, and there's a pretty good chance that somebody's done it. So like out of the box, I don't think it does Lewis syntax highlighting package you can add.
Yeah.
Despite I have not noticed, but I'm usually working plugged in, so I wouldn't necessarily notice the battery drain thing. One thing I have noticed is that the find and replace is a little finicky. So sometimes if you've already started a find and then you type something new, like it'll say that it doesn't find it, it's not there, and you're like, no, I'm looking at it right now, it's there. And then if you close out the find, make a small change to your code, like add a space somewhere,
and then be related to their problem. It could be, because that's one of those kind of things that happens in real time, right?
Mm-hmm.
The reasons for it to be doing processing all the time is to keep up with your current dictionary of words and where everything is located. And if they've got something sucking up all their processing time, they may be lagging behind on figuring out where new words are.
Yeah, it seems to be the responses seem to be fairly muddled in the community. There's people who have said that they have disabled spell checker, and Atom, and that's fixed their problem. Some have said that they've gone through and disabled linters, and anything like that that's going to go through and sort of like you say, pre-process your always looking at your code, real time kind of stuff. So. I don't know. I tried all those things and I couldn't. It didn't make a difference. It was all still running high. So it didn't. Like I said, it's not a deal killer for me. It's just a okay. I'm not gonna kill my battery while I'm out and about. So.
So is that like total CPU usage, or is it just using like one full core, or?
That's a good question. I don't know. I just know when I bring up Activity Monitor, it says percentage of CPU, and then.
So what do you got? What are you running? iPad? I mean, not iPad.
Let's see. I've got the. Let me bring up about this Mac. I've got the MacBook Air. Hold on.
New gen or older?
No, mid 2013. It's got an i7 core i7.
So that should have 2 or 4 cores then.
Probably, yeah. I don't remember. It doesn't say on here.
That doesn't sound good. If it's able to consume multiple cores at a high percentage, then that's not good.
Yeah.
So.
But I like the editor.
It's not only a leak in the processing; it's a multi-threaded leak. Just like the worst of all possible cases. Yeah, the more cores you got, the worse it gets.
Microsoft is actually doing interesting things with their Visual Studio platform. In the last 6 months. I don't know when this happened. I only noticed it a month ago or so. They've got a free, so it's Visual Studio Online, and you create a free account there, and they'll give you free version control, like unlimited projects. It's essentially GitHub, but it's I believe it's free, and it's like hosted on their servers. And unlike GitHub, where it's free on GitHub, but it's not private at that point. But this is private, and you can add team members to it, and they give you a custom URL. Like I've got schroederapps.visualstudio.com. And it's like you can go there, you can add a new project. They've got templates based on Agile or Scrum. It's kind of cool what they're doing with that. It seems like they're making a real effort to reach out to developers.
I think they're definitely trying to reinvent or redefine who they are. Separate themselves from their past, so to speak. But I mean, do you guys think that that's going to be enough?
Enough
like, is the genie right out of the bottle? All these things that they're giving away now. I mean, there's open source equivalents for them. Do you think people will go back and centralize all their eggs in one basket?
Probably not.
I don't think so. I think they're going to capture. They've already got the core audience, so they'll probably hold on to them. And this kind of stuff would probably help recapture people who they'd recently lost. But somebody like me who's been using GitHub for years now, I'm not switching. Nothing. I was going to make a joke, Charles. It's as Jason likes to say, dovetails with what you just said. Jason's one of Jason's favorite phrases.
Is it? Do I say that a lot?
You do say it. I'm just giving you crap. I was going to say, you better stop saying Visual Studio, because Charles is going to give me a bad time pretty soon and say, so Ed, you thinking about going back to Visual Studio?
Well, yeah.
When I started the show, I was a Visual Studio user.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I guess that question was maybe directed at you. Are you going to go back to Visual Studio?
No, not going back.
It seems great. It just seems overpowered for what you're doing with Corona and Lua. I mean, Corona's so lightweight.
Yeah, it's still got some great features.
I love Visual Studio, the whole one.
They're multi-file, locate and replace, like super simple. You don't even have to have the files open. You just go look in this directory and find every file that's got this and replace it. Just do it. Stuff like that. They got all kinds of really useful tools that are just a click away. So.
Yeah, I always liked what was it where you could jump to functions in your code. Wherever you define the original function, you just there was some kind of key. I don't even remember what it is now, but there was some sort of keyboard mouse click. You could boop, but it just jumped right to that function definition. I used to love that.
Yeah.
What's that, Michael?
It's like control click or F12. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean those types of things I loved about Visual Studio, being able to jump around like that and get to pieces, because that's the biggest thing that you deal with, right? Is you're always trying to unpack some problem, and you're always fishing through code. So those types of developer shortcuts are always welcome. So.
Well, if Visual Studio came up with a Lua integrated solution that was able to discover where all my functions and methods were defined and give me a nice interface, I might go back. But right now I've got Sublime, and I'm used to it, so I'm just going to go with Sublime. I paid for it, so, there, I'm invested now.
Do you guys know? Do you guys know if it supports Lua? Like if it does a?
I'm sure it does.
You can open any text file in it, but it doesn't have LSX support.
Doesn't have any code highlighting or anything like that?
Yeah, I don't think so.
Yeah. But, the thing is I'm almost sure that the old Visual Studio, one of the old Visual Studios used to support some kind of like plug-in feature or something where people could make syntax highlighters for it.
They all support extensions.
Yeah, so...
Like that's how we provide Windows Phone development through an extension.
I think the problem is that Visual Studio changes so much. They almost update it like every year, every 2 years for sure.
Yeah,
that a lot of these plugins just couldn't stay up to date. They're like, oh yeah, it's compatible with 2009, but I'm using 2011 now, so good for me.
Yeah, well, that's a big problem no matter what, right? Any fast-moving platform.
Yeah, you guys never have to deal with that, right, Michael?
Nope, never.
Like an operating system that changes every year, iOS.
Oh, God.
I'm sorry.
I'm starting to think that's. I think that kind of works on iOS. I say that confident that I don't have to update an SDK to keep up with it. But the hardware refresh cycle is every 12 months or so it kind of makes sense. I'm starting to feel like the desktop operating system, at least on the Apple side, every 12 months is just maybe just more aggressive than is useful because it takes 12 months to iron out the kinks.
Well, here's something I heard on This Week in Tech, and I think it's absolutely spot on. Is that operating system launches used to be a big deal, right? Like you've got Windows 10, and it's like, and they do a whole show and they come out and they talk about all the features and stuff like that. It's becoming less and less of a thing, and especially with the recent release of El Capitan, it's kind of like, well, we didn't come out with a whole bunch of different features and stuff. We just refined what was already there. So maybe we could get to the point where it's just, instead of having these big breakpoints in operating systems, we just have continually updated, right? It's just there. The updates just happen, and there's no reason to make a big fuss about it, and we just move on.
Yeah. That's where both Microsoft and Apple have been going. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, but now to the point where they don't even make media events out of it, right? They don't even try to make it like a dog and pony show.
It's not revenue generating for them anymore. They're no longer charging for these things. So yes, it generates revenue in terms of new hardware purchases and all the rest of that. But I suppose Windows 10 is technically a for-sale product, but I don't know anybody who paid for it because at this point, if you've got a active Windows 7 or 8 license, you can get it for free. So
eventually they'll get some money out of that, but you're right. Pretty much, they'll get money out of everybody who wants to do a clean install after the window for getting a license free ends.
That you can still upgrade past the window once you've already upgraded once. Like once your license has been used, you still have like Windows 10 and still install.
I'm using Windows 10, so I'm still. It's still a little bit rough for me. I've been running into a few issues. So.
What issues?
Phantom failures on some of my older apps. Like for example, I'm not a Photoshop user. I'm a Paint Shop guy. I've been using Paint Shop Pro for the longest time, and the last time I upgraded Paint Shop Pro was Paint Shop Pro 12, which is now like 5 years old, I want to say. And it doesn't always work, even with compatibility mode in Windows 10. It does this weird thing where you can run it one time and then you kill it, and then you can't start it again until you go out and kill all the sub-processes. And then like the other day, I couldn't generate a PDF file out of OpenOffice. I'm like, what the hell is... Well, Sorry. What the heck is this all about? Well, that's what I was really thinking at the time. I wasn't thinking heck. I was like, "Argh! I just need to get this done." The thing that was really goofy about that is OpenOffice, if you're familiar with it, is the cheap person's replacement for the Microsoft suite. So they have Word, they have Numbers, they have some other, and those aren't the right names, but they have like spreadsheet apps and they have word processing apps and stuff like that. And all the other co-products can generate PDFs. So you can make your content and then generate a PDF. Every other one of the co-products could generate a PDF, but the one that I needed to use to generate a PDF wasn't happening. Like, what's up with that? So, anyways, little stuff. It's been pretty solid, though. I don't want to go on a big discussion. One of the things I got a dual desktop. Another thing that I don't like about it, one of the things I don't like about it is the old Windows 7 and I don't know about 8. It used to have a taskbar only on the main window, and then secondary and third monitors didn't have taskbars.
Mm-hmm.
This one has taskbars in every window.
You can change that to right-click the properties.
Go ahead.
If you go to the taskbar, right-click at properties, there is an option to turn that off.
See, yeah, okay. I've been playing with the options on it, but it's like it freaks out a little bit when you change it from what it wants to be the default. And then like one taskbar will misbehave and the other one will have a mind of its own. It's like they get a mind of their own. They both start doing things independently. I'm like, that's not what I want. Stop it. So little details like that. Maybe the thing is that could have been ironed out in an update. I just turned it off. I'm like, forget about it. Just stay where you are. I'm not going to mess with you anymore. I learned my lesson. I'm not going to touch you. So.
I'm wondering when speaking of updates, they're taking a very aggressive stance with Windows 10. It just updates, man. Like, it doesn't ask, it just updates.
Yeah.
I think on the one hand, that's probably going to prevent some what could have potentially been very big data breaches until you get a very industrious hacker who finds a way to make that system push their malware.
I think you can turn it off.
I really doubt that's going to happen. They've been doing updates for years now.
Yeah.
It doesn't, after you do the initial install, it doesn't respect your previous Windows update settings. It assumes that now you want to do updates whenever it feels like doing updates.
Yeah.
You have to go back in and turn that all off. And turn it on to the option where it says, ask me but don't do it, basically.
Yeah.
Because I thought I had my system all good, and I'm one of those guys who likes to leave a system running for days on end, and I had multiple things running. I got virtual desktops. I got, stacks of projects I'm working on in certain states in each of my desktops. And then I'd come in the morning, I'd go, why is my computer running on the login screen when I put it to sleep last night, and nothing is there anymore, including all the things that I didn't
people
save.
who set, just remind me that there's updates, don't actually install them, and then never actually do. People weren't installing updates, so you gotta force them.
Yeah. Now I've had success. It hasn't done it since I went back and said reinvestigated the settings on updates. I'm like, aha! I see what you're doing now, you beggar. That wasn't
Rob here.
Hey, Rob's here.
Hey, Rob.
Wow, we're starting to get top heavy on the whole,
So you said
thing here.
Yeah,
So
we
you're
got
gonna
enough of you.
You're gonna set up a firewall to keep Microsoft out of your computer, keep them from pushing updates to you.
Dude, I turned off all that extra stuff in Windows 10. Everything I could turn off, where they were like trying to keep track of what you've been browsing and suggest stuff, and what do they call that little helper? That's Cortana.
Cortana, yeah.
That's out of there. I can make it go away.
Has anybody here, any of the Windows folks here, made a real go of what's the new browser called? Was Edge?
I've actually heard some good things about it, which, I mean...
It sounds like if you're running on
wrong with
Microsoft hardware, it makes smart use of the touch screen and those sorts of things.
Yeah. Well, also it's meant for some mobile devices like the Surface and whatnot. So while you're in Chrome and you're using 14 billion gigabytes of RAM and all of your processor cores, Edge is very lightweight.
I want your machine, 14 billion gigabytes of RAM. Dude, that sounds good.
I find it really interesting that Chrome is now, because that you just said, well, if you're running Chrome and it's very, it's very resource hoggy, I go, wow, what a change, because when it first launched, the idea was that it was the most lightweight.
Yeah.
No, it's turned into a hog. I was just talking with Charles about this yesterday, actually. I don't use Internet Explorer anymore because I don't have it. I don't use the new Edge thing because I don't want to turn it on and have all that stuff discovering what I've been doing. And I still don't trust it because it's too closely married to the operating system. I don't like the idea of a browser that is integral to the operating system being susceptible to some kind of hacking, because that's one step away from your operating system being hacked. Right? And then I'm a Chrome and Firefox user. But I was complaining to Charles yesterday that Chrome has gotten to be a hog. Using a lot of memory now.
I've come around to Chrome if I'm on a Windows environment. I still use Safari on a Mac, and I know I catch crap from some people about it, but
do you have a lot of bookmarks in Safari?
No, I'm not. You know what? I don't. I'm one of these people. If I have more than if my inbox is more than a dozen things, I start to freak out. I'm the same way with tabs. I can't have more than 5 or 6 tabs open at any given time.
Oh man.
What am I going to do with all that? Man, I can't.
I can't function without 3. I told this to Ed. I can't focus without at least 3 instances of Chrome running with at least 15 tabs on each instance.
I go to a coworker and he has so many tabs that he doesn't even see the fave icon.
Yeah.
It's just tiny little slivers.
Yeah.
All you got is a little icon for closing the tab. You can't read what it is.
Yeah. Now, do you navigate to these naturally, Charles, or is this you've got your 50 pages that every time you open up the application it just jumps to them?
I
have probably about 10 that are pinned tabs that stay open all the time, and then the rest of them are things that I open regularly, but I open them manually when I want them, and then I've got the command tab thing down to where I switch between those different instances of Chrome, just like you tab between different applications. So. Yeah.
Rob
I use all of them.
Rob threw his support in the chat for Firefox, and I used to be a diehard Firefox guy. I don't know at what point I just at some point it seemed like Chrome offered a few more advantages. It also they're all guilty of this, but at some point the refresh cycle on Firefox started to bother me.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I didn't. And there were. It seems like there were issues with it just being slower. Like it would load slower when I just start the browser. I was like, okay, Chrome came along and I was.
Make that noise when you start it. That's not a good thing, Charles.
Yeah.
Time to clean the fans, buddy.
I haven't used Firefox in forever, and it's not even on my taskbar at all. Like I don't even acknowledge it.
This is a repeat discussion. Charles and I had this already. I use browsers to split my personalities. That's how I'll put it this time. My work personality goes on one browser. My personal personality goes on the other browser.
Oh, I do that too.
Which one is which?
I use Chrome for personal, and I use Firefox for business. Also, I'll just tell you.
Netscape Navigator for when you're going crazy.
And then if I feel like being on the edge, I'll use Internet Explorer. No, let's not go there.
Anybody Opera? Anybody still use Opera?
No, I don't use it.
Not for years.
I used to
on mobile devices back when it was BlackBerry, no iPhones or anything.
Yeah.
It's so funny the things that you don't like. For me, viewing page source, because I'm not like a web developer, it's something I do every once in a while because I need to find something or I'm curious about something. I am so behind at my day job last week. I asked a guy for help, and he I was making some change to some CSS or whatever, and he's like, "Well, here, we'll just open up the page source, and you can modify it and see those changes in real time." And I don't know when that got put in.
Awesome.
But it's awesome. Yeah, and it's so smart, and this is I think he said Opera was the first to do it actually, but I'm so behind. It's probably been that way for a year or two, but it like blew my mind. I was like, wow, you can change the page source of just the local instance of it that you're viewing. I go, it's so smart.
What's even crazier is there's that, and then there's all these other tools, all these console tools and things that you can see network traffic, and the more you dig into that, the deeper the rabbit hole goes.
I think one of the reasons that I'm a big Firefox user is because one of the first tools that came out was Firebug. Before that, it was a plugin for Firefox. And eventually when Chrome came out, they added their inspector in, and now Firefox has added in their own inspector, so you don't need Firebug anymore. But that ability to go in and change CSS styles and see what font size you really needed or what float you needed was just indispensable when you're building a website.
And
Which is probably why Firefox is my primary browser.
I was going to say it's also nice because it lets you gives you a little power to watch what other people's plugins are doing. So,
Yeah.
And you don't trust them 100%, which that's me. I don't trust anybody.
I used to be a big fan of the whole Mozilla thing. I mean, I remember years ago I was a fan of Thunderbird.
Are you old enough to be a fan of the Mozilla thing? That's what I want to know.
Yeah.
I still use Thunderbird as my primary mail client.
Do you? I fell off of it at some point, but I mean, going back when I used to be a Eudora fan. I liked Eudora, and Thunderbird gave. What's that?
What was the first browser? I can't remember.
The first browser?
The first browser. Internet 1996-ish, right?
No,
Netscape?
Netscape was one of the first, but
Mosaic.
Mosaic, yeah.
Mosaic, yeah.
And then the folks that made Mosaic graduated from University of Chicago Urbana-Champaign and formed Netscape. Then Netscape got really nasty, and they started off Mozilla to kind of reboot it. And then we're wherever we are today with Firefox.
Yeah, but do they still maintain Thunderbird?
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
The release just came out last week.
okay.
Every time I hear Thunderbird, I think of what's that cheap wine? Thunder what?
Like Mad Dog 2020?
Or something like that. Thunder or something.
Yeah. They don't update it often, but there have been a couple of updates in the past couple months, so maybe they'll get back to it a little more.
No, that's funny because maybe I didn't look hard enough, or I just wasn't looking in the right place. Because I remember when a couple of years ago, when it was one of Apple pushed out a new operating system, and Mail got broken if you were using it with a Gmail account, just broken. And so until they fixed it, and it took a couple of months, I was trying to find something else. I ended up using Airmail, which is a pretty good little app.
I just downloaded Airmail too. It's pretty sweet.
Back in the day, Eudora was definitely the best.
Yeah, no, I hung on to Eudora probably too long because I was still using it. Did they even integrate IMAP integration into it when it was still a thing? Because I was just using POP at the time.
I think there is, but my wife still uses Eudora. Or she
Qualcomm, right? Qualcomm bought them, right, at some point.
And then they, when Qualcomm dropped support for it, Mozilla kind of picked it back up and tried to do a Eudora skin on top of Thunderbird. So you can find a newer Eudora that is, based on Thunderbird if you, look hard enough.
This thing, right? Nostalgia. It is a very good FTP client, but even if it weren't, I love that I use Fetch because it's Fetch. It's what I used in 1994. It's what I use now, and it still has the little running dog icon when it's doing something. And I love it.
So how did they make money off of, what are you doing over here? What are you doing there, Ed?
Death.
Nice. What are you doing?
I'll tell you in a second.
Okay. Well, how do they make money off of Thunderbird and all that kind of stuff. I don't understand that. How is it they can continue to maintain the software?
Do they make
They don't
money
make
for anything?
How do they continue to? How is it that? Okay, how is it that Twitter? People can talk about Twitter not making enough headway in the world, and there'd be all this focus on companies growing and all this turmoil in the world, and then something like this mail client that's been around forever, it doesn't make any money, can continually get maintained. I don't understand. It seems like an imbalance in all of that.
Well, you've got a couple of things going on. First of all, they're open source. And there's a lot of developers out there who just are passionate about the product and are doing it in their spare time. And
just because it's open source.
Yeah, just because it's open source. Plus, Mozilla has a whole foundation behind it where they get like donations and stuff.
Well, they're a 401c3, right? They're a nonprofit.
Yeah. So whatever money they can get in from donations and
presumably grants and things like that.
Okay.
Is that asking what I'm doing, or I'm just totally being a jerk here? Charles is like, "What are you doing?"
Yeah, I don't even know what you're doing there. You're in Corona Simulator, so it's.
I am in Corona Simulator. We were talking about
Choose Your Own Adventure.
Yeah, this is your Choose Your Own Adventure thing, right?
Yes, this is the. I've been working. This is why I'm excited about the iPad Pro coming out, and the fact that we now have desktop. I'm working on a editor suite for Choose Your Own Adventure stories.
Yes.
Where you can create your own Choose Your Adventure. Have any of you guys used Twine?
I have not, but I've heard of it.
Okay, well, this is basically this layout. What you're seeing here is very similar to what Twine does, which is just these little draggable windows, and you can go like, here, we want to give another exit for the money plot, and let's say, let's call it Give Ed More Money. More, if we can spell money, and let's make that go to the Money 2 page. Let's make that the Mo Money page. And then you close it, and boom, there's a new Mo Money page, and then you can put your Mo Money content in there, and it's just like this visual editor they got for little interactive fiction, and I loved it so much that my favorite word, co-opted it. I stole it. I stole the mechanics of it and implemented it with Corona. And I'm going to be, this is still rudimentary, but I'm going to be releasing a product that will let you make Choose Your Own Adventure stories. And you'll be able to edit them from a desktop client or from an iPad. Probably nothing smaller than an iPad because there's just not enough real estate for the other parts of the tool that need to be here.
Mm-hmm.
And there'll be a Coronium backend that lets people upload their content and be able to share it and make their own stories and do stuff like that.
That's your upsell right there. Make it a free download, but if you want to contribute to the community, it's an in-app purchase. Maybe you can make it a subscription. Maybe you can make it a subscription.
Yeah, I'm still working out the monetization part, but those who create content will get something in return, and those who just want to consume content will have to pay for it. So,
I like Jason's. You can make it a subscription.
Yeah.
I might make it just a subscription for Jason. Well, that's the kind of thing that goes with a subscription. I mean, let us begin. I can see a little devil on your shoulder jumping up and down all this. Get a subscription. I'm watching Jason's camera, by the way. I just want to see what he's saying. What are you thinking, Jason?
No, it's awesome.
Yeah. So this is the text-only version. I got some other versions which are coming with the ability to add like backdrops and animations and stuff too. So.
So would it have like stock backgrounds and stuff? Is that?
Yeah, it'll have stock backgrounds, and then I'm considering allowing people to upload backgrounds too.
Oh,
but one of the things I got to deal with is image size and bandwidth.
Yeah, well, and inappropriate images.
Yeah, inappropriate images. But part of what I'm going to be doing with this is having a group of people who would get rewarded in some way.
Now all the pieces are starting to fit together.
Yeah. They would get rewarded for being, content that comes in won't be able to make it out the door for general consumption without having been reviewed by a certain number of users.
Gotcha.
Oh yeah, we were talking about this a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm still working out all the details, but yeah. I'm extremely highly aware of people who like to show up on shows and whatever. People who want to put their junk in your adventure. That's the way I'm going to put it. Sounds wrong. So,
I'm going to throw this out there in case
Throw it out
anybody on the panel knows anything about it, and we can talk about it offline if you do. Has anybody ever done? I mean, Corona supports SQLite. Has anybody ever done any queries against like an ODBC or like a Microsoft SQL via Corona or Lua?
no.
Am I just pie in the sky that this might be?
No, you're talking almost over my head. Actually, you are. Anything with data stuffy is like, I'm like,
Yeah, I know
no.
what you're.
Probably need
I
a
know
separate
what
plugin for that.
Yeah.
You both talked. I didn't hear an answer.
Go ahead, Michael.
You probably need a second plugin to that if you're doing things locally, but you could just do a web API, like if you have a MS SQL database on a server, you can interact with a PHP script on the server to
Okay.
kind of interface with it.
Yeah. Okay. Because we're working on something that it'd be nice to be able to do, relatively simple SQL statements, queries, just updating rows or adding new data to an existing table. So yeah, I suppose if I just set up like a relay, like a PHP relay, essentially, right? That it could take the string as an argument to the URL.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's just the way to go.
Yeah, I was looking at. There was somebody in 2012 who was asking that same kind of question, and RESTful API. That was pretty much the.
Yeah, I mean, because Rob actually has a very useful blog post on his site, but it's in the MySQL realm, and so I am learning Microsoft SQL. Like in SQL Management Studio, I'm real comfortable going in and mucking around, but in terms of interacting with it, via an external sort of API, I can wrap my brain around it, but I haven't actually done it yet, so it's just trying to figure it out.
Yeah, well, you need some sort of driver or something that you can hook into. Like in .NET, you'd have to go through and make your connection to the database and then pass your query to it and get your results set back and do all those things. So you need some sort of connector for that.
Yeah, I mean, one of the nice things about PHP is it has pretty much all those database level APIs out there.
Yeah.
So I mean, you should be able to drop an MS SQL calls in place of those MySQL calls, as long as you're calling this right SQL for Microsoft and handle how they may return data a little bit different, you should be good to go.
Is the syntax very different for? I mean, I'm dealing with pretty basic stuff. Is there wild differences in syntax between the various flavors of SQL, or?
Not wildly different, but different enough that it's an annoyance. It's like SQLite, for instance, doesn't have all the types that you can use in MySQL. You don't have all the different, give it to me ascending and subselects, and the SQL can get pretty complex. I mean, even MySQL, I think, is a more verbose language than even like Oracle's flavor of SQL. So, but also PHP has a database class that abstracts all of the databases. So you could just make generic database calls, and then the abstraction layer takes care of dealing with the different flavors.
That's cool.
But you kind of have to be in objective programming mind for that to work. And I'm an old procedural guy, so my brain never wrapped around it.
Uh-oh. Coming through Rob's speaker.
That's funny. Maniacal laugh.
I sound all tinny, too. That's nice. I really like it. Takes all the tin and goes, let's put some more on there. Oh, my goodness.
That's good stuff, right? You can't make that stuff up.
I almost want Rob to turn his microphone back on.
Yeah, right. Just to play with it.
Sorry, Rob. I was going to ask a question here. My question is that I'm when it comes to web stuff, I'm really confused. I get confused quickly, but one of the things I've been entertaining is I've been using Coronium for a while, but I've been wondering if maybe I shouldn't switch over to like a PHP-based kind of thing instead, where I write all my scripts in PHP and I got a MySQL back. But from the Corona side, I mean, I can't remember. I feel like we did a show on this already where we talked about doing PHP stuff from Corona.
I tell you what you would want to check out is Meteor. Go to meteor.com, and it has it's JavaScript, but it has sockets, and so one of the things Coronium and what was it, the other one, Coronium Socket Server. The great things about that is that you get what they call reactivity. So whenever your data source updates, the client updates, so it pushes information back. So you could just like Coronium, you could connect up and get your information going back and forth through sockets. But one of the benefits of Coronium though is you're using Lua on the server and the client. You don't want to continue to do that?
I like Coronium. I have run into one issue with it that I'm still struggling with, and so I'm hedging my bets here. I'm like, yeah. So. Well,
because it's JavaScript. I mean, it's very, very close and.
That's more learning.
No, not really. I mean, it's very close in syntax to Lua.
Yeah. Well, at one time I actually was a little familiar with JavaScript, but you know how it is. You put something down for a while, it sort of all just dribbles out.
All right. But yeah, it would be easier, I think, than trying to pick up PHP. PHP's certainly, got its nuances, and it's a little long in the tooth.
Yeah,
I think.
I got a big book on it, but I haven't cracked it.
PHP and JavaScript and C and ActionScript, they're all the same language. It's all based on the ECMAScript syntax. So your for loops and your curly braces and semicolons are all going to be the same behavior. What's different, I mean, in PHP, of course, you got to put dollar signs in front of all your variable names, but it's a matter of what the API libraries are. And, whether you're going to learn the JavaScript set of APIs, or you're going to learn PHP, or you're going to learn the Coronium way, it's all, you got to get comfortable with it. I mean, it's just, sure, I can write Lua, but could I go over to Love and start being productive? No, probably not, because I don't know their API. I know Corona's API.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm nodding my head, but I agree with you exactly, especially that statement about love. Right?
Yeah, well, but ECMAScript, you said ECMAScript, and of course JavaScript / ECMAScript, is now they're committing themselves to keeping the language updated. So they're really, now they're calling it ECMAScript 2015, which is JavaScript 6 or whatever. I think they're I don't know, they're really committed to try to make it a more modern language, catch up with all the other languages. Whereas I don't have that same feel about JavaScript. So.
Well, I mean, JavaScript, I mean, you can do object-oriented stuff in it. It's a pretty nice language. Where JavaScript gets into trouble is we pretty much only think of it as a browser language. And so you got Microsoft's version of JavaScript, and you got Chrome's version, and you got Firefox's version, and you run into all the little glitches that come from that. But a pure JavaScript implementation, I said a lot of people are building on this thing called Node.js, which is a really lightweight web server that responds to web requests. And, it's getting to be a pretty big thing out there. It's sort of Chromium is based on the same idea, except it's Lua instead of JavaScript.
Yeah.
PHP,
and Meteor.
I don't know about Meteor, but PHP is still on the mentality of a set of functions that Apache is going to call to do web things. So, it's better than CGI, but it's almost still in that CGI mentality. So you're going to call the web script's going to do some stuff and return some data. Whereas with Node.js or Chromium, you're building a very specific server that isn't a generic web server that's going to be able to do stuff. So it's faster and more efficient without, all the overhead of trying to be just an all-purpose web server.
Yeah, I like Chromium. If Chris is listening, if you're listening, Chris, don't take me wrong here. I love Chromium.
Have you asked him about this issue that you're having?
Sir?
Have you asked him about this issue that you're having?
Yeah, actually, we're pseudo in contact working on it at a unstressful pace. Neither of us is pushing the other one to get it done. It's just a thing that I ran into and I couldn't figure it out. It's literally what it was is I turned on caching mode and I started getting this weird conflict on some of the OpenResty calls, and I'm like, what is going on here? So I thought I was smart. I thought I was a good programmer. I am a good programmer, just not at this. And I went and did all my research, and I looked up, the error messages and figured out what the cause was as far as what the error message was trying to tell me. And then I went and dug through all the OpenResty code, and I realized that he was using a little bit of an older version of OpenResty. So I went and looked at the new OpenResty, and I said, aha, here's some changes they made, and these look like they're related. And I put them in, and everything looked good. See, the problem with this bug is it's like totally a corner case. You got to pound on it to get it to happen. So you think you fixed it, and then you give it to your testers, and they say, nope, still broken, right? Because you're one guy, whereas they're like, they're pounding on it. And anyways, that's where we're at. Me trying to figure out something. It's not even him. It's like his code's great. It's the OpenResty code that's messed up. So there's my complaint. Sounds like a complaint. Hey, speaking of Chromium, does anybody know what is going on with Chromium Ace? Has anybody investigated that yet?
No, I saw some.
He seems to have like a launch of it, right? Or at least a soft launch.
Yeah, I think it's a soft launch.
So tell
None of you guys have already done all this? Come on, man.
Tell us what it is.
Spare time besides work.
So tell us what is it?
I don't know.
Isn't it a protocol for doing like embedded Lua on like Raspberry Pi devices?
That's what it looks like, yeah. Something about an embedded Lua client. The thing that confused me is I don't know, Chromium. As soon as I hear Chromium, I think, oh, something on a server somewhere like what I've already experienced. So we got Chromium, we've got Chromium Game Server, and now Chromium Ace. And I get them all a little confused in my head as to what they're doing. So just thought I'd ask.
See, I think Chris is he's like a coding genius, and he's like mixing up his paint and his lithium and his little lithium paint or whatever, lead paste paint in his cups, and painting all these things furiously, and paints all over his hair and stuff like that. I'm like, when do you sleep?
Yep. He sneezes and a new product comes out.
I know, and I'm like, what? I have
the Chromium lineup. That's
and he documents it all.
That's the
beautiful documentation.
That's right. Yeah, and documents it well. Not just like it's beautiful documentation, not just like a text file.
No.
And he keeps his website. I'm looking at his website right now. He keeps it nice and clean and and lightweight, but he's got a nice logo there, and the website looks great. You know what I'm saying? Like normally you have like one project that you kind of spend all your time on, and then everything else kind of goes to the wayside. But he seems to make the rounds.
I will say this is. Sorry, Ed, you go. Well, no, this isn't really apropos of anything, but Ed and I had a brief email exchange about this last week. I'll just say, the strangest thing dropped. It dropped out of the sky for me last week. I had a guy get in touch with me through my website, and it was like a contract job, but it was not for a full project. Usually, when I've taken on clients, when it's been, I sign up for a project, I'm signing up for minimum a month, usually more, of pretty dedicated work. I'm going to take something from infancy to release. And this is a guy, he's a coder, he knows what he's doing, he was bumping into something, and he thought I could help, and it turns out I could, and it was, 5 or 6 hours of work, and I got paid for it, and it was like it was like a couple of nights. It was like a couple of nights between when my kids went to bed and when I went to bed, and I could just type away at it. And at the end of it, it's like you get a little bit of money in your pocket. You feel like you helped somebody. It was a great little brain exercise. Just, it's this encapsulated thing. And I thought to myself, I need to start getting more of this stuff. I mean, I love taking a project from infancy to completion. That's great. But when you're working for somebody else, that can take a toll. But this, like, just in and out, I feel like it was less than a week of work. I helped somebody. I got a little bit of money.
And then it was done.
And then it was done. It was awesome. Like more of that.
Part's the best part.
Like more of that. More of that.
Short projects are fun because that very reason. I found that longer projects, even if they pay more, they're too tedious. They're too
Right.
Yeah, they tend to drag. You start to get you have too much time to be annoyed by all the things that take too long. But yeah, a nice hit it and quit it sort of project.
Well, and the scope was really small. It wasn't, hey, let's make an app. Oh my God, so many things can come up. No. This was like, I need to do this one thing. Can you make me a module that can do this one thing? Yes, I can do that. Let's do that. It was awesome.
It's nice too because you get to avoid that whole I need to polish everything else issue.
Yep.
There's no.
And I'll say this too. He was a guy who I did not know before. He sort of had used a couple of the free modules on my website. That's how he found me. He was a dream. He was awesome. Like I said, well, this is how much it's going to cost. He didn't mind. He gave me a deposit. He paid promptly when it was done. There was one little issue that he found with it afterwards. I fixed it. I sent it back to him. He's awesome. If you're listening, you know who you are. You're amazing. You sound like you do your own. You sound like you do your own coding. But if you ever need somebody again, because you were awesome.
No, what I hear you saying, Jason, is that he should come and ask me for help next time. Snipe your clients there, buddy.
No, you know what? It's been really weird. Another guy got in touch with me, and we're the same. And this hasn't happened at all. And these two guys that fell out. The other one isn't a done deal yet, but we're talking, and it might work out. And it's like, it's just. When you started your hire hitman thing, you were ahead of the curve with that, man. That is the way to go. That's just really rewarding. And
yeah, it's coming along. I've gotten a few hits. I've done a few hits so far.
Nice.
I like the euphemism. I've done a few hits. Let's just say some people aren't going to be having any problems anymore.
That's right. You just whack him. All right. Well, what else, guys?
That's all I got.
Anything else? That's all I got, too. I'm kind of done.
Hey, I just want to say thanks again, you guys, for releasing the controllers on the Windows, man. Awesome.
Yeah, I look forward to someone taking Guitar Hero controller and making a little game. You totally do that.
Now you lost me. I've never been a fan of Guitar Hero, but okay. I know.
It's not about that. It's about controller.
Yeah.
You know,
Does
you
anybody
use
here
Macs
actually have a
to
Guitar
run, you
Hero
know.
controller?
Sorry, what?
Does anybody on the panel have a Guitar Hero controller?
We had one here locally for testing. If you're familiar with the demo/Pew Pew sample app, we were actually playing that with a Guitar Hero controller.
Go to Goodwill. I'm sure you can find 100 of them for $1.
I think I have several of my kids' guitars around the house.
Huh. Okay, well then that's your assignment then. You shall
No,
stop
No,
answering people's questions in the forums and instead put together a demo using that. Rob's like, yeah, whatever, buddy.
no, but
Yeah.
Michael, Ed's right. You guys have had a killer couple of weeks on the feature side.
Yeah, other exciting stuff coming up too.
Yeah, I got to go through and read all the release notes lately. It's like I
You
don't even
know,
know it.
that's just the high-profile stuff, though. You know, there's always. I mean, I know you know this. I'm just going to state the obvious: is that there's always things coming out, right? There's always things being added to the mix. It's just these bigger things like controller support and stuff like that get the attention. But you know, we need to do a better job of beating the drum on all this other little stuff too.
I'll say, when Transition 2.0 came out a couple of years ago, it was like sleeper. It was like nowhere in there. And that, to me, is one of the bigger improvements in the last couple of years.
I think
being
the
able to
fact
tag in transitions is big.
Say that one more time. You chopped up a little bit for me.
I said being able to have a whole bunch of transitions and give them the same tag so you can just cancel them all at once or pause them was huge.
Yeah, I mean, it was one of those things where I was like, how is this not a blog post? And like all sorts of stuff, because it was like awesome. It was like just...
You know, it's one of those things we probably planned to do a tutorial on it, and then just other things came up because it got probably released in the middle of a bunch of other things, and we just never got back to it.
Yeah.
You know, that sort of thing. You know,
Yeah,
it's like one of the sleeper things that a lot of people may not have noticed is we've now gone through and I think finally fixed custom fonts where they all load with the file name now. So that you can be very consistent across all platforms in how you specify loading stuff. And it's now smart. It'll look to see if you put the font family name, and if it doesn't find it, it falls back and looks for a file name with that. And that's just a little subtle thing, but it makes everybody's life a lot easier when dealing with the custom fonts.
Yeah, no, that saves me a lot of time. I'm constantly going, or I was constantly going in, especially for a multi-platform release. And like I use a fontographer, so I go in and I take a font that I want to use that I like, and I like simplify it. I'd give it the most simplified name. I'd modify the metadata on it.
Yeah.
But if I don't need to do that, that saves me a little bit of time.
the family fonts are always the
File
ones that
names on our platforms now, so.
What'd you say?
Oh yeah.
Which of us said what?
Oh, I don't know. Rob cut out.
Oh, and you know, there's one big thing, particularly if you're doing the desktop apps. There were some breaking changes on the Windows side with how setting like the min-win height and things like that are different. So now they behave the same way as OS X.
Oh,
So
and I blamed Michael for that. So you're the guy I should give the harassment to. That's how
No,
we
I had nothing to do with it. I just read the release notes.
Yeah. No,
I'm gonna-
I bemoaned that change jokingly at the beginning of the show. Because on the last Corona Geek yesterday, I made a big deal about saying, notice people that these things don't match what you think, and then like boom, you guys did a release and said, nope, now it's not that way anymore.
Which is kind of the curse of knowledge, right? Because now we've said it, people will believe it, and then it will be hard to undo, right?
Now they just think I'm a liar.
No, they'll see that show, then they won't see the other show, where
Yeah.
on the next Monday show where you'll say, oh well, by the way, that's changed.
Yeah, I know. I'll make it real easy and be the first thing I say, and they won't listen to it. I'm sorry.
Right.
I'm looking through Fontographer now. Every time, this is what happens on these shows. You guys say, yeah, I'm using XYZ. I'm going, oh, XYZ, what's that?
Isn't Fontographer like an old Macromedia program, or was it? Where did it come from?
Let me see. I might be running not the newest version of it, but
Well, you got to be running a really old version of it.
you know what? I am getting called into FontLab is who makes it, but yeah, the version I have is 2.2010, so I'm using a really old version, but it still runs. I'm getting called into daddy duty, guys, so I have a couple of sick kids, so I'm gonna get moving.
All right.
All
Take
right.
care.
All right, take care, guys. Bye-bye.
Computers
Bye.
and choose.
Wow, he's out. They must be
He
throwing a
just
ball over.
wanted- Yeah, that's what that was. If this is what daddy duty is, your time.
Charles, you want to give me a call afterwards?
Sure.
Okay.
Sure. All right.
All
right.
I think we're getting ready to close up shop here.
Yeah, we might as well. All right, guys. It's been fun.
All right. Well, you guys take it easy. Okay, you two that are left, just hang up on us, Rob. Why don't you?
Yes,
Geez.
he's gone.
I know. Hurt my feelings. Shut up late and hung up on me when I was talking. All right.
Yeah,
Well, see you guys next time.
Ed, I'll send you some more information about Meteor on the sly.
Okay, on the sly. Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
still trying to figure out the data management thing on that COI thing.
Yeah. I have some specific opinions about that.
Okay. Specific.
Specific
All right, well, I'll be
opinions.
looking forward to your specific opinions.
All right.
All right. Good night. Take it easy, Michael.
Bye, guys.
Good night.